AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Dumb One Cigar Bar. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
Mute. And Mr. Toby Tomplin.
I gotta fade the bump and everything out, Scone. I was gonna go snag him for you. Scone forgot his headphones. So he's gonna have to go do that right now. But it is AFR here on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. We obviously have a ton to get into today. Here he's back. He found him. There we go.
These aren't them. Mine on my desk. It's all right. I just got a pair there.
Those will do.
It'll do.
I'll do.
That'll do, donkey. That'll do.
Yeah.
All right. You know what I got to do?
What you got to do?
Plug them in.
That would help. Yeah,
Doesn't
you'd
work.
be able to hear. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Doesn't work if you don't plug them
Good.
in.
Check. 1, 2. Check.
Yeah, you know the problem with this is the 1/8 inch over here.
Yeah.
It's just the one ear. God, it's annoying.
You want a 1/4 inch? I got one in my bag.
We're talking lingo here. People know the lingo we're talking.
Inside baseball.
That's just how we're doing it over here on a Friday. Terrio in 1 hour. Phil Steele in 15 minutes. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
It has been a wildly unstable week at LSU. Brian Kelly fired. The governor making his inflammatory remarks at the press conference on Wednesday. A day later on the McAfee show, on this show. This has been a firestorm of a week. Thursday night, Scott Woodward and LSU mutually agreeing to part ways. At least that's what the press release said. Now, I think if you've been listening and following along, this should come as no surprise. I've been telling you that before I could tell you who is going to hire the next coach or who the next coach is going to be. I have to know who's going to be hiring the next coach. And maybe in a certain vague way was alluding to the fact that Scott Woodward wasn't going to be here, and I think by now you all know that. It's pretty abundantly clear. And this all stems from a months, maybe even years-long feud. And it's unfortunate because a personal vendetta, political favors, and the governor's interference have led to this period of instability around LSU football and LSU athletics, which is very uncomfortable and unsettling. And they need to stabilize things. And my hope is that Friday can be the start of that. Now, I'm always going to give you my opinion, no matter what we discuss. And I'm going to say again what I've said before. Firing Scott Woodward, and make no mistake about it, you can send out the stupid press release and send members of the board up to a press conference to talk about how they mutually parted ways. Scott Woodward was fired, okay? The governor didn't want him in there anymore. The board appointed by the governor did the governor's bidding, and they kicked him out. Here's your buyout. See you later. That's what this is, okay? I don't think you're stupid. I think you are because you are listening to or watching this show, therefore you are an intelligent person. We can all understand, right? I don't think I'm saying anything that's wildly crazy. I think this is a horrible decision. Scott Woodward is a great athletic director. He is a Baton Rouge guy who loves LSU, who's in 6 years here, has won national championships. He's hired championship-winning coaches. We have seen LSU's athletics revenue go up. We have seen fundraising go up. We've seen new facilities. All the things that you want your athletic director to do, Scott Woodward has done an exemplary job. He is wildly respected in coaching and administrative communities. He is an objectively great athletic director, and you just kicked out a guy who loves your school, who's great at what he does, because the governor has a vendetta. That sucks. That sucks. That is nonsensical. It is self-serving by Governor Landry. It is an awful, awful decision. That's my feeling. There's no political bias laid in there. I don't care who you voted for. I don't give a rip. You want to know why I gave up on politics 20 years ago? Because of crap like this. It is political favors and wrangling and power struggles at its absolute worst, and it caused a great period of instability at LSU this week that I hope that they're able to come through. Now, there's three things. There's a press conference on Friday morning. By the way, press conference at 8 a.m., bad form. Like, who does that? I mean, I've been to thousands of press conferences. An 8 a.m. press conference is awful. They had it at the Lawton Room, which is attached to Tiger Stadium. It was Scott Ballard, the chairman of the board, John Carmouche, who's also on the board. He's the head of the athletics committee on the board, and Verge Ausberry, who will serve as the interim athletic director. Now, I believe there are three very important things that came from this press conference. First and foremost, the governor of the state for the last 48 hours has been screaming everywhere he can about how he doesn't want the taxpayers to have to foot the bill, that they would be on the hook for the coaches' buyouts. And I understand, because his political lackeys have been blowing me up today, getting into yelling matches with me about if I'm being dishonest or untruthful. Bottom line is this. Like I said a minute ago, you're not an idiot. We all understand what this is. Like, the governor is grandstanding. He's trying to create fear, knowing full well that, okay, by the letter of a contract, if LSU athletics goes belly up, then the state of Louisiana would be on the hook for these contracts. But does anyone think that LSU athletics is going belly up? And John Carmouche, board member John Carmouche, attorney John Carmouche, on the dais today at the Lawton Room said this.
The governor had a right to be concerned, and we're working towards solutions. Everything's on the table. But let me make it clear. The state has never, and the taxpayers have never paid for a coach and never will. So,
and the truth shall set you free. Let me be clear. The taxpayers have never will pay for a coach's contract buyout. Not me saying it. Not angry, bald, old, yelling radio guy. John Carmouche. Board of Supervisors, John Carmouche. Appointed by the governor, John Carmouche. Attorney, sitting at that dais today saying, never have, never will. Because I got news for you, Coach. If LSU, TAF, athletics, self-governing, can't afford to pay the buyout, then LSU ceases to exist, which will never happen. Could it? Sure. I had someone say to me today, oh, just because you drive down the street 30 times and never got a ticket, it means you won't? It's more like when I walk outside on a sunny day and get struck by lightning 17 times in a row probability. Jackass. Not Carmouche, the guy that called me earlier today. He knows who he is. That's number one. We could put and my guess is John Carmouche is probably going to get a call from the governor yelling at him because he basically contradicted him in that statement. We can put that to bed forever. Don't ever come at me ever again saying that taxpayers are going to be on the hook, have to foot the bill. It's nonsensical. It's disingenuous. It is a ridiculous semantical argument to try to fearmonger, to push your political agenda. I hate politics. Stupid. That's one. Two, God bless him. I mean, three times in this press conference, the men sitting on the dais had the opportunity to answer why did Scott Woodward and LSU mutually agree to part ways. Wilson Alexander had the first question out the chute and asked that and said, was there governor involvement? And here was John Carmouche.
The governor was not involved. The governor is worried about the state of Louisiana. His concern had to do with the state contract. LSU Board of Supervisors and Mr. Woodward decided jointly to part ways.
Cool. Yeah. We all believe that. And we all believe that I have some oceanfront property in Idaho I'd like to sell you. Yeah, the board, with no prompting at all from the governor, up and decided that they were just going to part ways with a successful athletic director. And the athletic director was good with that as well. We're mutually agreeing to this. Cobble asked a follow-up and was like, hey, won 2 national championships last year in baseball, women's basketball won a natty, gymnastics won a natty. They've been all these metrics, they've been super successful. Like, hard to explain why you're parting ways. Is it performance-based?
It was a joint decision. The board and Mr. Woodward had discussions, and it was a joint decision. Thought it was the best for both parties.
That was Scott Ballard, who had no good explanation whatsoever, other than just to repeat the question and say it's a joint decision. By the way, I'm not crapping on Scott Ballard or John Carmouche here. They had an impossible task. Basically, the governor wanted to fire the athletic director, made them do it, and then they had to go sit up on the podium today on the stage and answer questions that everyone knows the answer to, but the answer is uncomfortable, so they don't want to give it. So they keep spouting this ridiculous line about it being a mutual agreement to part ways. And one more time, God bless, Brett Martell, even in the preamble, said, I'm going to give you one more shot here to see if you want to explain why there's this parting of ways.
Like John said, it was a mutual agreement after conversations and with all the things that come into that, energy and family and what you're doing. And, nothing's off the table of why Scott and LSU had a mutual agreement that after those conversations that they mutually agreed that it was a good idea. Scott is a great human being. Scott is a good Baton Rouge LSU Tiger. It had nothing to do with any of that. It had everything to do with the path of both conversations, and they mutually agreed that it was time. It wasn't an LSU thing. It wasn't a Scott thing.
So there is no answer. And forgive me, that was Scott Ballard. Prior was John Carmouche. And I feel badly for them because they were tasked with explaining something that was completely nonsensical. That was an illogical decision. Scott Woodward being forced out was not made with sound logic and reason. And we've been through it. Did you read Ross Dellinger's piece yesterday? He took you back to the spring when a booster, board member, I'll tell you who it is, Lee Mallett wanted Will Wade to be rehired. He was going to fund the buyout for Matt McMahon and the rehiring of Will Wade. He went to the governor, who he's been a big benefactor of the governor, asked the governor to pressure Scott Woodward into doing this. Scott Woodward said no, pissed him off, and now here you are. Like, it's fundamentally absurd. This is why politics never needs to touch my athletic department. Like, go away. Go make roads and keep us safe and make good schools and get away from my football program, please. Go away. You do not know what you're doing. You do not need to have any involvement in here. And God bless the board members are just wealthy people who bought seats on that board. And they get to have governance. It's what we're talking about is ridiculous. And it's created such instability. Now, I want to break. I'm going to come back because I do believe that there was a direction. I'm going to talk about Verge Ausberry here that is positive coming out of today that hopefully we're able to see LSU move forward. We'll bump Phil Steele by 15 minutes. I'll come back. I'll finish this conversation, and then we'll get to Phil Steele at AFR.
After further review.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. You've been injured in an accident. It's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. Go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com, getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done. Hey, it's a great time of year, always. We're moving toward the holidays. Got the Get Gordon bicycle giveaway coming soon where Gordon gives away bicycles to the less fortunate in our community. Just another part of his philanthropy. If you want to see more about all the ways Gordon gives back to our community, you can always go to GordonGives.com. That's GordonGives.com, GordonGives.com. There's so many different ways. We talk about the NIL deals with members of the G team. We talk about the laptop giveaway during graduation. Gordon's a great sponsor of Pat's Coats for Kids, which has been a decades-long charitable endeavor with Pat Shingleton in our community to make sure that every child has a warm coat during the cold weather months, and Gordon's been a great sponsor of that. We love to be partnered with Gordon here, and we encourage you, if you've been injured, you know what to do. Go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
All right, glad you're hanging out with us here, Friday edition of AFR. We are presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. I'm glad to have you hanging out with us here. So this press conference Friday, I think was it was very uncomfortable, and I think a gross failure to try to explain why we are where we are. However, I do leave that press conference today feeling optimistic for one reason. During that press conference, in no uncertain terms, when Scott Ballard was opening the press conference, and then John Carmouche led it as well, Carmouche gave this very clear statement about Verge Ausberry.
Verge is the ideal person to lead this department through this change. And I want to be very clear. He has full authority to do so. That includes leading the search for our next head coach and hiring our next head coach.
So that is so important, because one of the things that has been really evident over the last week has been a void of a single authoritative voice. There's no university president hired yet. You have an athletic director that clearly was a lame duck that the governor declaratively stated was not going to make the hire. And you have no football coach, which is one of the reasons you have this really weird press conference with board members leading the press conference, which never happens. But what else are you going to do in this situation? So announcing that Verge has full authority to lead the search and make the hire is important, because now Verge has the clearance to go make phone calls, go call agents, call coaches, take phone calls, do your due diligence, lead the search. Hey, it's you. Go lead the search. And Verge, who, in the name of full disclosure, obviously several years ago, along with Miriam Seeger, were suspended by the athletic department and the university in conjunction with some of those Title IX violations. That's fair to mention. But Verge loves LSU. He played at LSU, and look, I love LSU. Doesn't mean I'm qualified to go hire a coach. But he loves LSU. He played at LSU, and he's been an administrator at LSU for more than 3 decades. He's been through this. He's been in the rooms, had these conversations. He's aided in searches. He is supremely qualified to do this. This is a good thing. Verge also said at the press conference today that he's formed a committee. On the committee are the 2 men that were sitting next to him, Scott Ballard, John Carmouche. Also, Ben Bordelon, who played at LSU and is a great LSU benefactor, the CEO of Bollinger Shipyards. E.J. Kuiper, who is the president and CEO of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System. We talk about Our Lady of the Lake here. Well, FMOL is the giant multi-state health system that oversees OLOL and the whole thing. E.J. Kuiper is the president and CEO of the whole thing. So, and then Verge said there would be one more who he did not name. So you've got a committee, and now on Tuesday, you're going to have a new president in place. You have an interim AD who has been given autonomy to go make the hire, has very smart business people around him that can now start to have these conversations, because you better believe if I'm getting questions about what's going on over there, agents, prospective coaches, and the like have a lot of those similar questions. So now what you have is Verge and a handful of very smart, successful business people who can have these conversations and say, hey, look, I know this week was unstable, but here's what happened. Here's why it got the way it did. Here's our plan forward. Here's what you're going to see, right? President elected on Tuesday, hire a new AD, whomever, maybe it'll be Verge. I don't know who it'll be, and we'll move forward. We have autonomy to make the hire. Who knows? I mean, I've even had conversations where the new head coach could potentially have a say in who the athletic director would be. Apparently, that's not an altogether uncommon thing. So something worth keeping an eye on. But Verge said that when describing the type of hire, remember, one of the big questions has been, what type of coach you're going to get.
Next chapter is we have to hire a football coach. We're going to hire the best football coach there is. That's our jobs. We're going to go out there. We're not going to let this program fail. LSU has to be in the playoffs every year in football. There's 12 teams that make it. It's going to expand here. We have to be one of those at LSU.
I love that. That is reasonable. 12, 14, 16 teams, you should be in the playoff every year. That should be the expectation. So the other part of it is, with what the governor said about contracts, is LSU not going to go sign a $100 million deal with a bunch of guarantees? Verge was asked that.
I've spoken to the board members on side of me right here and other board members, and our job, I was told to get the best football coach there is, and don't worry about that at all. So my thing is, we're going to go out there together as a team, and we get the best contract, get the best coach we have, and whatever it takes to get that person here, we will do.
So I want to be clear. The question was, hey, look, governor has said we're not doing these big contracts anymore with the big buyouts. Is that going to limit who you can hire? And Verge says, what you just heard. I'll talk to the board members. They said, don't worry about the contracts. Go get the best coach. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now, you got the authority and the autonomy to go do that? Awesome. Sounds like you do. Off you go. And next week, things get back to normal. LSU's going to be in game week, preparing for Alabama. The focus will shift back to Frank Wilson making his interim debut, to Garrett Nussmeier getting healthier or whatever. Does Michael Van Buren have a series? Does the defense progress? Are they not facing a running quarterback like they did the last 2 years in Jalen Milroe, who they didn't want to tackle? A little different now with Ty Simpson. We start to have that conversation, and the people assigned with the task of going and hiring a coach get to go hire a football coach and focus on the thing they need to focus on. So while the last week has been clumsy, poorly handled, has created large amounts of instability, in my opinion, an awful decision to part ways with an excellent athletic director, today was a day where hopefully you got through the muck like Andy Dufresne, crawling through 400 yards of who knows what, and you're through it. And with the raindrops falling, you can reach your hands outstretched to the heavens and move forward as a program and as an athletic department. This was a big step. It was not great in any way. But announcing Verge as having autonomy to make this hire was a big step for LSU starting to make progress toward hiring its next football coach, which is the thing that all of us are most interested in seeing, obviously. All right. Brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Quick break. When we come back, our weekly visit with Phil Steele to preview the biggest games of the college football weekend.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by our friends over at Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area: Seagan near Airline, LA 16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Buy local, shop local. Hey, want to remind you that over at Clegg's tomorrow, Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon, Clegg's on Seagan. One day only, 8 a.m. to noon, only the Clegg's on Seagan. The Baton Rouge Green tree spree is going on. For every Baton Rouge Green approved tree that's purchased, Clegg's will make a donation to the Baton Rouge Green Foundation. Help keep our community beautiful. So they'll have arborists on hand. So if you're looking for those trees to plant in your yard, even some fruit and citrus trees, they got them over at Clegg's Nursery, and all benefiting Baton Rouge Green on Saturday. Again, Saturday, one day, 8 to noon, Seagan Lane, Clegg's Nursery. It's the Baton Rouge Green Tree Spree.
after further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Man, am I excited to talk football. Haven't got to do much of that this week. The weekend is upon us. Time to welcome aboard Phil Steele. Absolutely the best. PhilSteele.com. Make sure you get to YouTube. Take the Phil Steele Plus tour. And we always preview the biggest games of the college football weekend. Phil, thanks as always. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How about you?
Been busy, Phil, but excited to talk football with you. Hearing your voice is a great reprieve from everything of this week. Hey, let's start with Big 12-15 kickoff, if we shall. Penn State, Ohio State. This one probably had a dramatically different feel when the season started. Now it's number 1 Ohio State. They lived up to the billing. Penn State's 3-4. They fired their coach, and they're an 18.5-point dog at the Horseshoe. Any sense here that Penn State can keep this close, make it a game?
I think they can. You look at the overall talent that they have on both sides of the ball. Now, granted, it'd be better if Drew Eller was at the QB spot, but I think overall, when you look at them, they have the talent, but the offense just hasn't played that well. The defense hasn't played up to expectations. Ohio State does play up to expectations each and every week. I can definitely paint a scenario where Penn State makes a great game of this. I could also paint one where they get shut out and Ohio State wins 31-0. So probably lean a little bit with Ohio State, especially since the spread right now is under 3 touchdowns. But, the possibility exists for Penn State to make a game of this.
Vandy at Texas is another one in the early window, Phil, and I'm struggling to understand why Texas is favored in this game, but there they are, 3.5-point favorite over the Commodores. What am I missing here?
Well, the things I look at in this game, Matt, first of all, if you look at Vanderbilt and line them up player for player, Texas does have the edge talent-wise. And last week, Vandy didn't blow me away. They actually got outgained by 113 yards by Missouri. They're in a really good situation the last 2 weeks, being at home for those 2 games. Now they've got to go on the road. Last time they went on the road, they lost to Bama by 16. Granted, a late score in that game, but still, when you look at it, Bama had the first down edge, 26-16 in that. And with Texas, granted, they have not played good football, especially the last 2 weeks, but they're off a 4-game road trip, basically. The last time they were at home was September the 20th. Now they're finally back at home. I think Texas is the better team at home, and they're going to be fired up because Vanderbilt's ranked top 10. They're not. They're way at the bottom of the rankings, so I actually lean with Texas minus the points in this one.
All right, Phil likes the Longhorns. In the ACC, Miami, which, of course, had the disappointing loss a couple of Fridays ago on that Friday night against Louisville. They're on the road at SMU. Canes are a 10.5-point favorite. Feels like it could be a tricky spot, though, for the U. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah, I definitely think so. In fact, Matt, had this game been played last week, SMU would probably be a 4 to 6 point home dog, maybe even a 3 point home dog, because at that point they were just coming off a big win against Clemson. But last week was a horrible situation for SMU. They were off the big win against Clemson, traveled back home. That was playing on the East Coast, then traveled back out to the East Coast in a sandwich situation with Miami of Florida on deck, taking on a team off a bye. And it got them. They still were going to win the game, and then Wake got the field goal that barely cleared the crossbar to beat them. But I think you see a completely different SMU team this week. Rhett Lashley is 19-4 straight up at home. And if you go back to Miami last week against Stanford, it wasn't quite 42-7. They had to tack on that touchdown with 26 seconds left to get the cover. I like SMU here. Like I said, I think if the game was played last week, they would have been a 4 to 6 point underdog. Now you're getting the benefit of last week's results, bumping this thing up into double digits. I'll take the double-digit home dog here.
Phil Steele is with us. Let's go to Jacksonville cocktail party with Georgia and Florida. It'll be the Billy Gonzalez era debut. Maybe an interim bump, Phil. The Gators are getting 7.5. What do you think?
I think the later we go in the year, the interim bump is less of a factor. We saw that last week with Colorado State, Wyoming. Colorado State had 0 interim bump. And I think when you look at these two teams, Florida's good, no doubt about it, but DJ Lagway will make some mistakes. Gunnar Stockton is the quarterback you want. I mean, he's got a 10-1 ratio this year, can also hurt you with the legs. Georgia knows how to win these things, and heck, the last 4 games have all been Georgia wins by double digits. I thought Napier was liked by the team. So I don't know if we're going to get that bump that you think. I do think Georgia's the better team here. I like the Bulldogs to win this one by double digits once again.
All right, be a big one for Georgia as they steamroll toward potentially a return trip.
And Matt, remember what I said about Georgia a few weeks back?
You said they would go undefeated
the rest of the regular season games.
The regular season, yep, sure did. That it sure looks like it's in play. We'll talk about Georgia Tech when we get there, which will be fascinating across that bridge. We'll talk about Georgia Tech coming up in a second as well. But Phil Steele's with us at PhilSteele042. Make sure you go to PhilSteele.com. Phil, you mentioned we've talked a good bit here about the Big 12 and the crazy races there. Texas Tech at Kansas State. I don't know, man. The Little Apple just always kind of feels like it could be one of those sticky spots. Texas Tech's a 7.5-point road favorite here. Maybe a little bit on upset alert?
Absolutely. In fact, play this game at the start of the year, Matt, and Kansas State's probably a 3-point home favorite. Remember, Kansas State was one of the favorites to win the Big 12, as was Texas Tech, and the game was at home. Then let's throw in the Ireland thing. And I'll tell you what, teams coming off Ireland struggle, and Kansas State sure did that. For the 4 weeks they had post-Ireland, they were horrible. They were 1-3 straight up, only win over North Dakota. Then they had a bye. Ever since then, they've looked like that Kansas State team you thought was going to be at the top of the Big 12. And when I say you, I mean the general public. Right. They beat UCF. They went and played Baylor, and at the end of the game, they kicked a field goal to take the lead. Baylor kicked a field goal to take the lead. They missed a field goal. Had they made that field goal, they would have beat Baylor on the road. They beat TCU by 13. They crushed Kansas last week. They look like the team you thought they were. So you're getting a team that probably would be a 3-point favorite as a 7.5-point dog. You're getting over a touchdown at home. I do think Kansas State's got a great shot at pulling the upset. And the final factor in K-State's favor for this one, Matt, is that they've actually covered the last 7 against Texas Tech and won the last 8 straight up. So they know how to take on Texas Tech. I like K-State plus the points in an upset here.
One more, Phil, before we grab a quick break. It's kind of a pillow fight in the SEC, but it's a short line. So I wanted to ask you about Mississippi State at Arkansas. Bobby Petrino's squad, a 4.5-point home favorite. Neither team has won a league game, so someone's going to break through. Who do you think it is?
The scoreboard. I'm gonna go with the over in this one, as you do in all Arkansas games, right? Because they have a very poor defense, but they have a really good offense. They can put. Remember 2 weeks back they put up 42 points on Texas A&M for crying out loud, and Mississippi State's defense the last 4 weeks has allowed 456 yards per game. They're sort of wearing down as the season goes on. They've got a good quarterback in Blake Shapen. They've got the running backs with Booth. And so I think overall when you look at this game, I'm going to go for the points. I think Arkansas wins it. I'd be a little leery about laying the 4.5, so I'll take the over in this one.
He is Phil Steele. It's After Further Review Friday shows brought to you by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Phil, sit tight, grab a quick break, come back. We'll get through the rest of the afternoon, the evening games. Love telling you about Evermore, EVA-MOR, Evermore.com. Drink it every day. Encourage you to do so as well. EVA-MOR, Evermore.com. Natural artesian water, a Louisiana product bottled right there on the North Shore there in Tangipahoa Parish. And with national distribution, it's an incredible success story. It tastes great. It's a better form of hydration. It's a healthier alternative for your family. It's Evermore, EVA-MOR. Evermore.com. Find the local retailers near you, or, of course, you can always buy it online at Evermore.com. Okay, we continue with Phil Steele. When we come back, we'll wrap up with the afternoon and evening slate. Stay here on AFR.
AFR.
If you're thinking of selling your home, call Darren James. Why would you call anyone other than the realtor that literally sells more homes than anyone? That's Darren James. Agent225.com, agent225.com. It's a website, agent225.com. Darren James, number 1 in the state of Louisiana on the transaction side, meaning no realtor in this state gets to the closing table more than Darren James. He's got the systems, the processes, all in place, and he'll give you exceptional customer service. Agent225.com, agent225.com. When you're there, by the way, there's a home value tool on the homepage. If you want to know using local market data what your home would appraise for today, again, using local market data to give you an accurate number, go to agent225.com, hit the home value tool right there on the homepage, type in your address, boom, in seconds, you'll have an accurate estimate of what your home is worth, courtesy of Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
after further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Got Phil Steele with us, as we do every Friday here on a Football Friday, previewing the biggest games of the football weekend. You can always go to philsteele.com, S-T-E-E-L-E, philsteele.com. That Phil Steele Plus store, it's embedded right there on the homepage. Make sure that you check it out. Phil, let's jump into the afternoon window. And, man, South Carolina, this close from pulling the upset a week ago. Now they got to go on the road to Ole Miss, where the Rebs are an 11.5-point favorite. Thought that number might actually be a little bigger. What do the Gamecocks have left in the tank heading down to Oxford?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the number would be closer to 14 as the game comes in. But, now you look at Ole Miss. They're coming off that big win. You look at the rest of the schedule. You say playoff. They're going to be 11-1. They'll be a big favorite in all their final 4 games this year. And they sure were impressive last week against Oklahoma. But this is the type of spot they sometimes trip up in, or at least get a scare. And I think South Carolina's the type of team that can throw a scare India with Lenora Sellers, a quarterback, a decent defense. Now, they're not last year's defense, but they are holding opponents to 58 yards per game below their average. So I like Ole Miss to win the game. I do like Ole Miss to make the playoff this year. I think they'll be 11-1 at the end of the season. But I'm going to take South Carolina plus the points here to keep it closer than expected.
I mentioned that we would get back into the ACC with Georgia Tech, and they keep chugging along here, Phil. They're just winning. They're ranked in the top 10 in the country now, and Georgia Tech is on the road at NC State. It's a 6:30 kickoff. The Ramblin' Wreck, a 4.5-point favorite. Maybe some magic there up in Raleigh?
Yeah, Carter Finley's tough at night. They pull a lot of upsets there. They've got a good quarterback in C.J. Bailey. And the thing with Georgia Tech, they seem to play better as an underdog than they do as a favorite. And the pressure is all on Georgia Tech at this point in the season. And I call it unbeaten pressure. And we see it happen each year. These teams that are ranked, they start looking at the numbers. Where are we going to be here? Where are we going to be in the rankings? Are we going to be here? The other team's just playing to win the game. And so I do like NC State plus the points. I think Georgia Tech might escape with the win. They are the better team. But NC State's going to give them everything they want.
What do you think about Oklahoma and Tennessee? This one's in Knoxville, and for both, Phil, it feels at both at 6-2 on the season, feels like a de facto elimination game from college football playoff contention.
Yeah, it clearly is. And I think you look, Oklahoma's got an excellent defense. Excuse me. They holding opponents to 131 yards per game below their average. Tennessee has an excellent offense. They're averaging over 100 yards per game above what opponents allow. So I think that's a pretty even battle. On the flip side of the coin, Oklahoma's offense is average, and Tennessee's defense, especially pass defense, is average. I think John Mateer will have his best game since he got injured. And so that's good. Dates all the way back to the Auburn game where he threw for 271. I think we'll see him up there again because of Tennessee's pass defense. But the thing is, can they stay up? And Neyland is a tough place to play. I would have Tennessee favored by about 3 in this game. What's the line?
I'm looking at 2.5. Tennessee 2.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd probably stay away from this one. I think it's going to be a highly competitive game, an elimination game. I think it's going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I'm right down to the wire.
Couple more for you, Phil. And Phil Steele's with us again on Twitter at PhilSteele042. Make sure you pick up that Phil Steele College Football Magazine. Barnes & Noble, of course, and Books A Million. How about this classic Big Ten battle? Southern Cal against Nebraska. It'll be played in Lincoln at night on NBC. USC's a 4.5-point road favorite there. Oh, Phil, there's a lot of sticky spots on this slate. This is another one that I think. USC, potential trouble there in Lincoln?
Yeah, and, Matt, looking at the two teams this year, I definitely feel USC is the better team this year. Now, they are down to their fourth-string running back in King Miller the last 2 weeks, and last week struggled to move the ball in Notre Dame. But overall, I think they have the better defense. Or than the better run game or the better passer in Jaden Maiava. But Dylan Rail is not bad, and they've got Emmett Johnson at running back. And, Nebraska's defense is holding opponents to 66 yards per game below their average. Now, they've just been getting by teams and even lost at Minnesota a few weeks back. But this is a huge game. It's NBC. It's at night. In fact, Matt Rule was talking about this in the locker room in the post game after Northwestern. Hey, we got a huge game, NBC at night. So I think you get the best performance on Nebraska. And then the big stat here. How about USC whenever they travel to the Eastern or Central time zone? 1-14 straight up and against the spread. Ooh. So I'm gonna take Nebraska plus the points in this one to pull the upset.
Love it. All right, couple more here. Just because it's on the slate and people here tend to like the SEC, I'll ask you about Kentucky and Auburn, Phil, with really no other reason to ask you about Kentucky and Auburn.
Yeah, it's a game where I can make a case for Kentucky, Matt. They've been playing better. I mean, Cutter Boley threw for 5 touchdown passes last week against that Tennessee defense. And Auburn, if not for the schedule, I mean, at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, Georgia, Missouri, and back-to-back weeks, probably would have a better record. But Auburn was fortunate to get past Arkansas last week with those 2 interceptions setting up scores at the end. I'd lean with Auburn definitely to win the game, but they're laying a lot of points here. So maybe a slight lean with Kentucky plus the points.
All right, finally, Phil, the one that I'm going to be fascinated to watch. It's a late-night game. It's 9:15 Central on ESPN. It's Cincinnati. They're at Utah. And we were talking about it yesterday. It stinks to high heaven. Cincinnati 7-1. They're undefeated in the conference. They're on the road at Rice-Eccles. Tough place to play. But Utah is a double-digit favorite, 10.5. You got to help me understand this one, Phil, because Cincinnati looks so tempting in the spot.
Yeah, and Matt, I like Utah here, and let me tell you why.
Okay, let's go.
First of all, when you look at Cincinnati, look who they beat. I mean, Bowling Green, Northwestern State, Kansas, which has sort of been average this year. Iowa State, when they played Iowa State, the Cyclones were down 6 defensive starters for that game. They beat UCF at home, Oklahoma State, and then a Baylor team that's been super disappointing. So as good as Cincinnati has played, and I like them, they were my dark horse pick in the Big 12 this year. They really haven't played anybody. And now this is a team that's had a bunch of losing seasons in a row, playing a big game on the road. Plus, the game's at 10:15 at night, so you got a team traveling from the Eastern time zone. This game's going to finish about 2 o'clock in the morning, their body clock time. Now, let's look at Utah. Utah had that bad fourth quarter against Texas Tech, yes. And last week against BYU, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, they went for it on 4th down 3 times deep in BYU territory because Whittingham was so confident. I mean, they had a 100-yard edge on BYU in the game, but came up 3 points short. Last week, they dominated Colorado, and that was with backup quarterback Bird Ficklin. They've got a great offensive line, one that's up for the Joe Moore Award. They've got a tremendous defense, one that's holding opponents to 110 yards per game below their average. On the season in Big 12 play, Utah is plus 133 yards per game. And you'd think Cincy would be in the same neighborhood with their undefeated record. They're plus 14 yards per game. They're doing it sort of with smoke and mirrors. So better defense, better offense, better offensive line at night, at home, and in the altitude. I'll throw that in as well. I like Utah minus the points here.
Utah, big number, and Phil's going with the Utes. Phil, no LSU game this weekend. We'll preview Tigers and Bama, see if maybe the Tigers get an interim bump next week. Doesn't sound like you're feeling it, but we'll talk about that when we get there next week. In the meantime, let's remind people about the Phil Steele Plus Tour there at philsteele.com.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, the tour had another great week last week. We've got 5 selections this week and 5 quick hitters. It's all absolutely free. You just go to philsteele.com, and right there on the front menu, take the Phil Steele Plus Tour. The selections are 11-6 the last 3 weeks, and the quick hitters, 5-1 last week, now 22-8 over the last 5 weeks. 5 selections, 5 quick hitters, all free. Just take the Phil Steele Plus Tour. And I guarantee you, Matt, LSU will not lose this weekend.
We could all agree that would be a wonderful thing. We need a little bit of peace and solace in our life this weekend. Phil, you're the best. Thank you as always.
All right, sounds great, man. Always great talking to you, my friend.
We'll do it again next week. That is Phil Steele. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Of course, gents, if you're thinking of popping the question, no better place to go than Lee Michaels. They've been helping Louisianians get engaged for 4 decades. Maybe you have an anniversary coming up. Excellent. You trade in that old diamond. You can maybe upgrade, trade in your old diamond for a newer diamond. You could certainly do that at Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Very popular option. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's earrings or a pendant or bracelet or a timepiece, beautiful watches. There are so many options for that perfect gift. Whatever you do, just make sure that you thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. LMFJ.com. LMFJ.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. It's Football Friday. We are presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar in studio today. Terrio's here coming up after the top of the hour. We'll get to all the good Football Friday stuff with Terrio. Picks here in hour number 3. Ton to do and glad you're hanging out. It's AFR.
AFR.
Temps in the 40s this morning. It was inevitable. I mean, it literally happens every year. I mean, the cold weather comes. And then we end up cranking on our heaters. Have you turned on your heater yet? If you have, but you have not yet called River City's 1 Hour Air, that's a problem. I'm going to give you the number. I want you to call River City's 1 Hour Air and ask for the preseason heater safety check. This is standard maintenance that you should get done every year. I do at my home. So I practice what I preach. I joined the maintenance club at River City's 1 Hour Air a decade ago, and twice a year they call me for the AC tune-up and the heater safety check. And it's complimentary service when you're part of the maintenance club. But even if you're not part of the maintenance club, that's fine. I mean, I'd recommend it, but that's not fine. That's fine. You still need to get this heater safety check, especially if you can't remember the last time you had your heater inspected. Make sure that it's efficient, it's clean, and it's safe to run during the coming cold weather months. River City's 1 Hour Air, 752-0001.